Every year, millions of traders around the world tell themselves that this is going to be the year that they finally break through to consistent profitability. They set goals and fancy plans on how they're going to attain this goal. And yet 99.9% of them are telling themselves the exact same thing just 12 months later. And the reason for that isn't what you think it is. We were all told that in order to achieve success as a trader, we just need to be disciplined. The truth is, that is a lie. And in this video, I'm going to reveal to you how I became a profitable trader without discipline or motivation, and how actually trying to be disciplined was the exact reason that I couldn't make progress. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but by the end of this video, you'll fully understand how to become a trader without trying to rely on discipline, so that this year can actually be the year that you achieve the results. So let's take a quick overview of what we're going to cover in this video. First, I want to cover the lie that we actually get sold. Then I want to discover the discipline trap. After that, I want to talk to you about my personal experience and my cycle that I got stuck in with someone who does struggle with ADHD. And then I want to talk to you about the big breakthrough, the realization, the aha moment that I actually had that literally changed everything for me. And then after that, I'll discuss with you and show you the system that literally changed my life forever. So starting with the lie that we tell ourselves. Now, right now, as I'm recording this, it is January the 3rd, right? It's the new year. And the big lie that we get sold is that a new year feels like a reset. And the truth is it does feel like a reset. The lie is that new year, new me, because a new year feels like a reset. It feels like you get a clean slate, a fresh batch of motivation. And you tell yourself that everything that happened before last year doesn't count anymore. The losses, the mistakes, the inconsistency, the blown accounts, everything that you went through all of a sudden just doesn't mean anything because it's a new year, and this year things are going to be different. January hits and suddenly you feel focused, right? You feel disciplined, you feel clear, you feel like you know how you're going to make progress, and maybe you start off on the right foot. But the reality is nothing actually changes because nothing has actually changed. You see, your environment is the exact same that it was last year. Your structure is the same, and your decision making is the same. And the only thing that's actually different right now is your energy level, which is why you are perceiving that things are going to change. But the truth is that high motivation simply just creates the illusion of transformation. It feels like growth, but it's actually just borrowed energy. And if you're honest with yourself, you've likely been here before. This is something that I had struggled with multiple times. Different year, same promises, and the year ends up being the exact same thing. And that's what I want to change for you in this video, because once I clocked what was going on and realized this lie that discipline is what you need to become profitable, everything just came crashing down. What's likely going to happen, if it hasn't happened already, maybe you watch this a little bit later on in the year. And by the way, this still applies to you, even if you're watching this video in the middle of the year. Maybe you've gone through this process and now you're coming back. A lot of people, they start the year with high intentions, they fall off, they crash, they burn, and then they come back later in the year and they're like, no, okay, I'm ready to go again. Wherever you're at, you're likely going through this cycle or have been through this cycle many times. And usually what happens is you get this burst of motivation, this burst of discipline where you're able to follow and execute on things, but eventually life creeps in. One bad trading day, one missed session, right? Momentum starts to crack. And then you don't quit immediately, but you start to drift. And with your drifting, your results slowly start to fade along with your confidence. And then eventually you land on the most damaging conclusion that a trader can make, which is maybe I'm just not disciplined, right? I have been through this so many times. And that's where most traders get it wrong. You see, they think that discipline is something that you either have or you don't, like some type of personality trait. Like some people are just built differently. You see these guys online, these David Goggins, and you just think that is built differently, right? And sure, that man is able to do some incredible things. But the reality is that less than 0.1% of the people on the planet are like David Goggins. You cannot expect yourself to be like that. That is not what you're going to use to get results. There is a much easier and simpler way than having to live a life that you actually truly hate just in order to achieve some things, right? It doesn't have to be that way. And that's because discipline isn't a trait, it's a state. And it depends on many things. It can depend on how you're sleeping, how you're feeling, how stressed out you are, how much mental energy that you've got left that day. And that's why ultimately discipline comes in waves. Some weeks you feel like you're locked in, you're patient, you're following rules, you're trading well, or life in general is just good. You're thinking that, you've actually got it, you've cracked it. You go through many of these stages where you feel like you're making real progress. But then again, life happens, right? you slowly start to slip and fall. One bad thing leads to another bad thing, leads to another bad thing. And this idea that you had discipline kind of just goes out the window. Now, for me personally, I like to think of discipline like a battery, right? At the beginning, it's full. You're able to make good decisions. You're resisting impulses. You're executing clean. But every trade you take, every emotion you manage, every decision that you have to think through yourself drains a little bit more of this battery. And then at some point, the battery runs out, right? Not in one big blow up, that comes later. But first, it shows up quietly. One rule bent, one trade justified, one, I'll be better tomorrow, or I won't do that again. And that's the part that keeps traders stuck for years. Because the progress that you make during high discipline periods actually gets wiped out during the low ones, and then over and over again, up, down, and that's essentially what I call the loop, right? And so over time, it feels like you're actually making progress, right? You're always trying, you're learning new things, you're bouncing from this strategy to that strategy, you're doing all of these things, right? You've picked up this psychology book, and then you've put it back down, and you've tried to journal like this, and then you've put it back down, right? You're just going through the motion of things, but you're not making any true progress. Because as long as your trading depends on discipline, your results will always be inconsistent, because discipline was never meant to carry something that is so demanding for this long. That's not a personal failure. It's a design issue, right? That's the biggest breakthrough that I had. Something isn't wrong with you, right? I dealt with this for a long time. I'm someone who, does struggle a little bit with ADHD and have done throughout my life. For a very long period of time, I thought that something was just wrong with me. I couldn't do what normal people could do necessarily. I could focus, but my focus was quite inconsistent. I'd have periods where I was locked in, obsessed, and then I'd have periods where I just fell out, right? And it would just disappear and my entire life would just fall apart along with my trading. And maybe that's something that you have experienced yourself. The types of things that I would experience in these times is drops in focus, the structure of my life and my trading and everything would just kind of fall apart. I'd start avoiding things, procrastinating, second guessing things. And something that I experienced is it wasn't actually the results that hurt me the most. It was more so the idea of the confusion and the being lost part. That's what honestly really got me. And that created doubt, right? And I did what most people do. I tried to fix myself. More rules, more routines, and more pressure. All of these complex systems and tracking and trying to be perfect and all of these things. And I'd ultimately just tell myself that I needed to be more disciplined, more consistent, and more normal. I've read countless books on discipline, watched podcasts. I think I've read every David Goggins book. And, I would get bursts of discipline. I'll get bursts of motivation after reading the book, after watching a podcast. But for some reason, it just wouldn't stick around long term. And because it wasn't able to stick around long term, my results also wouldn't follow, right? I would have good periods where I'm being super disciplined and I'm trading well and I'm alert and all this sort of stuff. My life is going well. I'm, being consistent in the gym. And then slowly but surely this battery would wear out and then I would just come crashing back down, back to square one. And every time it fell apart, I'd restart the cycle. And it was over and over and over again. And ultimately, I literally just thought for a long period of time that I was never going to be able to do this. Not even just trading. I'm talking about genuine, just real life as well, like not just trading. And this is where everything kind of started clicking for me. I mean, the real breakthrough for me came when I did something that felt extreme at the time. I actually fired myself, right? And I'm going to expand on that now. So before I'd fired myself, I had control over everything in my life. And ultimately, that was the problem. Every day I'd show up to the markets with a million different things in my head, right? The day that I have today, the things I have to do, the things I had to do this morning, just a mess, a chaotic place in my head for a long time. I would be trying to read price, look for confluences, trying to feel what the market was saying for that day. And I wasn't a gambler by any means, but I wasn't operating from anything fixed. So I would come to the markets, I would have hypotheses, I would understand bits and pieces about how the market works, market structure, supply and demand, liquidity. Like I had ideas and I had concepts and I would come to the market and I would try to make sense of the language that the market was speaking. That's essentially what I was doing. And I take trades based on ideas. Some of them made sense and then some of them didn't. At the time, they all felt justified. But when I look back, the trades actually seemed all over the place. Different logic, different execution, different risk, and there's no consistency, right? Like one day I'd take one type of trade and another day I'd take another type of trade. And yeah, there was just chaos And of course, there were some good periods. There were periods of trading that went well, but then there were also periods of trading that were just chaotic. And I would just go through this cycle of like, I could pass an account and then I would blow an account, and I would pass an account and then I would blow an account. I would make money and then I would lose money. I would make money and then I would lose money. And it was just this stop, start where I felt like I was making progress, and then I was taking one step forward and then two steps back and then two steps forward and then one step back. It was just this horrible cycle that I just literally felt like I didn't know how to escape it. And the more I tried to control everything, the more disciplined I tried to be, it literally felt like the harder it was and the more doomed I was. And this is why I wanted to make this video at this time of the year, whether you're watching this right now at the start of January or whether you're watching this middle of the year. Like, this is something that if you're going through this, you will be able to relate to, and it's something that I really wish I had figured out earlier. And then I remember I had this really bad week. Everything in my life was just a mess. My trading was a mess, my life was a mess, my diet was a mess, everything was just a mess. And on the weekend, as you do, you try to bring yourself back and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go again, right? New week, new me. Monday, new version of me, right? I'm gonna change everything overnight. And I was going down a bit of a rabbit hole looking at, discipline and why, like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I procrastinating? Like, why am I not able to stick to my rules? And why do I do things that I maybe know I shouldn't do? And then I stumbled across this guy, and he was talking about, something contrary, which was that willpower is overrated, that discipline isn't the way forward. If you want to get things done, it's not about discipline. It's about systems. I was thinking, systems? Like, what's this? And then I went down the deep rabbit hole on systems, because for the first time, I felt like I heard something that gave me a sense of hope, that I wasn't doomed. And then I went down the rabbit hole on systems, not routines, not habits, but systems. And then it literally just clicked, right? I came across this idea about pilots. Now, back in the early days of flying, in the 1930s or something like that, planes became too complex for pilots to rely on memory and willpower alone, right? And there was this test flight that happened where one of the most experienced pilots in the world crashed and died. Now, that's not because he was bad. He wasn't incompetent. He was one of the best pilots in the world. But it was because he forgot one simple step, one action, and it took his life. And then the conclusion to that wasn't that he wasn't a good pilot. It wasn't that they needed better pilots. It was that the system was broken. And so aviation introduced checklists. Simple ones: pre-flight, takeoff, landing, emergency. Not to insult pilots, but to remove human error from the equation as much as possible. And the impact was ridiculous. Aviation went from being incredibly dangerous to one of the safest things that you can do. Human error didn't disappear, but its ability to cause failure dropped dramatically. And then again, not because pilots became superhuman, not because they became these super disciplined people who just don't forget and they hit every step and da-da-da-da. No, it's because the system removed the need for them to be. And that was the light bulb for me. I realized that I was trying to trade and live the exact opposite way. I was trying to be the pilot, the co-pilot, the engineer, the air traffic control, all at once, relying on motivation, relying on discipline, relying on memory. And when my energy dropped, my whole life fell apart. And so I made the decision. I stopped trying to execute my life and my trading through discipline. I fired myself from execution, and instead, I learned how to become the CEO of my life. My only job became setting the vision and building the systems that made the outcome that I wanted inevitable. Systems that worked when I felt good, and systems that worked when I didn't feel good. And from that point on, my executor self, the me in the day-to-day, doing what he needs to do, he didn't need motivation. He didn't need high energy and discipline, because he didn't even need to think, because everything was already laid out on a plate for him. He literally just needed to follow the system and check the boxes. And that's when things stopped feeling hard and started actually working. Like, I couldn't get over how many aha moments I was having in this period of time. It's like, oh my God, imagine if I would have found this earlier. Oh my God, imagine how far ahead I would be in life if I would have just figured this out earlier. Because my entire life, I was trying to control everything. Think of anything, right? If you work a job right now, think of the business that you work in. How many employees do you have? I don't know, maybe you have 10 if you're in a startup. Maybe you have 500 if you're in a large company. Maybe you have thousands. Think about all of those people do specific roles, right? Specific jobs. Now imagine if one person tried to do all of those things, how quickly they would crash and burn. No amount of discipline is going to help that person control all of those things and keep everything perfect. No, eventually it's going to fall apart. And so I realized that I don't need to be the one who's trying to hold every single piece of my life together. I can just put systems in the places of my life, and specifically trading, because I'm talking to you traders. Trading is how I earn my primary source of income. I'm talking about trading. These systems, they give you control of your life because they allow you to let go of control of your life. Very, very profound insights. And again, that's when things stopped feeling hard. And then this is the system that I use to change my life, which is what I want to share with you now, this is just primarily trading based. This is the trading system that I use to change my life. So from there, I realized that I could build systems, and that was basically just an end-to-end from A to B on how to do something. And so I put everything I knew about the markets into one simple plan with a checklist for each stage of the process. I built rules for how I defined a daily bias, how I defined a valid trade, how I managed the trade, when I closed the trade. Literally every part of my trading became a box that I had to tick. It was just, if this happens, then I do this. If this happens, then I do this. And all I have to do is tick the box when I see it and move on to the next box. And all of a sudden, I didn't have this huge pressure and control of showing up to the markets and performing every day. Literally, all I had to do was just tick the boxes and do what the box said. That's not discipline, right? That doesn't require discipline. That just requires ticking boxes and doing mundane tasks, right? That's you being led by something better than yourself. And then I did the same thing for my trading operating system. I literally set up a simple system that automatically tracks all of my trading. It gives me all the important data automatically. All the important data that I need to know whether my strategy is working correctly or not. I have a simple 2 to 3 minute checklist I follow right before I begin the trading day, and then a simple 2 to 3 minute checklist that I follow after my trading day to reflect on my performance, to see what's working, what isn't working, and what needs to be tweaked, etc. And literally since having that, I have been having consistent profitability for, I already lost track of how long, month after month after month, year in, year out over the past few years. And I have years of the data for my trading system that proves that this simple checklist is what works, right? That's what does all the heavy lifting. And it's not only me who has benefited from this. At this point, I literally have hundreds of students who were in my shoes dealing with what I dealt with, who came into our program, plugged in the same checklists and completely turned their trading around in a matter of months. Literally going from consistently unprofitable to consistently profitable, making tens of thousands of dollars in many cases, which I'll literally just share them right now. Now, I didn't teach them to be more disciplined traders. No, I taught them how to operate from checklists. And now if you want more information on the exact system that I use for my trading, so the strategy, the operating system, and even the mindset system as well, I'll leave below this video another video. It's like 40-minute long masterclass on that system. I'll leave that below. It's completely free. Then I have one task scheduled in my calendar every Saturday. It takes me around 17 minutes where I just answer a series of questions that highlight everything important in my life. And so again, I'm not trying to control all these things. I have a master calendar, and once a week, my CEO self, as I call him, the version of me that leads the vision, right? And like sets myself up. He just steps into the control seat for 1 hour on a Saturday just to review my calendar and set up the next calendar for the next week. So that way, when I come into my next week, I already know everything that I need to do. And then I can just go on autopilot mode and just execute. I don't have to wake up and make all of these decisions. No, I literally just have to execute. And honestly, like it completely changed my life because it flipped everything upside down. And so if that's something that resonated with you, again, below this video, I'll leave another video that's going to provide so much more value on the actual system for trading itself. But hopefully that helps. And I wish you all the best of 2026. Let's go.